Windows Server 2022. Welcome back everybody. I'm Prakash Vadan, your trainer for this entire series. In today's topic, we're going to talk about one of the very much important topic that's been used by every system administrator in order to secure their network. That's a IPSec. This IPSec actually stands for Internet Protocols Security. Now, with the help of this IPSec, actually, we can help our organization to run or to transfer, to communicate in a very secure manner. So if I talk about the normal functionality of this IPSec, how it works, so let's have a look over here actually. So IPSec, it's simply a suite of protocols that allow secure encrypted communication between two computers over an unsecured network. That means even if your two computers are more than that, if your any two devices are trying to communicate with each other but their network is not so secure, still with the help of this IPSec, okay, Internet Protocol Security, you can set the communication. That means they can communicate to each other in a secure manner, no matter even if they are in a unsecured network environment. Now let's see how this IPSec actually works. Okay, how do they communicate to each other? So when this IPSec is set, okay, it might be in your standalone or it might be in your server. When the source computer, okay, so let's see over here. So I would like to go along with the pen, okay, so that it will be easy for you to understand. So let's see now with the highlighter. Now suppose you are in a unsecured network, but still you'd like to have a secure communication between two devices. It might be your one standalone or it might be in a server environment. When this computer, let's say, when this computer want to send some of the information to this from source to the destination computer, though they are not in a secure network environment, what we can do, we can go for the IPsec. With the help of this IPSec, actually, it's going to check your integrity. It's going to send your data along with the encryption. That means end-to-end connection is set over here and they can communicate to each other only with the help of this IPSec integrity and your encryption option over here with this security method, and they will also have a preset key also in order to set the secure communication in your simple network environment. Now, normally what happens that in every networking infrastructure, when this from any source, when your client or the server, they try to communicate to each other, you might have noticed that they are in the same network. So there might be other users, whoever are trying to, get into your data, or any of the client they are trying to access your data illegally, that we're trying to break down your encryption. So in that case, if you like to have the secure communication, no matter you are in an internal network area or it might be in a local area networking system, or it can be over the cloud also, IPsec is the best solution. Okay, now even you might have seen that even the VPN nowadays, some people are using for the VPN also IPsec. Why? That's an extra layer of security where there is a minimum chances of risk actually in order to transfer the data from the source to the destination. Now, what is there so that the people actually, they try to implement IPsec in their environment. So let's see now, IPsec actually helps to secure your traffic over the network with the help of what are the key factors that will help you to protect your network with the help of this IPsec. Number one, encryption. So whenever you send the data from the source to the destination, it goes in a encrypted form. Number two, when you send the data from source to the destination, only the required or the pre-informed or your paired device can decrypt that. So that's a concept of your public key and the private key. It's not only that. Let's say from this source, okay, from this source, if any data is being transferred to the destination, this destination also makes sure that this data has the data signing. That means this server will also make sure that I do trust this device and the data has come from the secure environment to which I have already known. That means it will check your data signing also, and it will make sure that this data has come from the secure environment, okay, or secure in the sense of your trusted environment. So let's see that how many policies are there in an IPsec. Guys, I'm going to show you in the easiest form in this practical, so please bear with this theoretical, because you'll have to understand first theoretical portion in order to go for the practical implementation. So when we implement this IPsec policies, it might be with the help of group policy or it might be in your standalone, okay, just point to point in order to secure your communication. So when you create the IPsec policy, of course I'm going to show you this practically, but first I want you all guys to understand Now, by the time you implement these IPsec policies, there are three options actually. Number one option over here, what we have is the server request security policy. That means from the source to the destination, whenever you communicate, the server will actually first request to come through the IPsec. Okay, if it is not, still the communication is done, but the first request or the first preference is given to the IPsec. And the second option that we have, that means the second policy that we can use over here, okay, that is the client respond only policy. This is very unsecure. That means every time you try to communicate from the source to the destination, okay, first it will try to make sure, or it will go for checking that this data is coming along with the IPsec. If it is along with the IPsec, then the secure channel is set, then the securely communication is done. But if it is not, still the communication will take place. That means this is bit unsecure, because it's not going to ask you, it's not going to make a request if you compare with the first option. Now the third option that we have, this is the most secure, and every system administrator prefer to use this one. And the third one is that over here, the secure server require security policy. That means in order to communicate, okay, over here you must come via your IPsec. Otherwise, the communication will not be set. So this is the best way to secure your network infrastructure with the help of this IPsec policies. Now let's go and see the practically how the IPsec can be implemented in a standalone or the domain-joined computer. Okay, now after having a brief discussion or the brief introduction regarding the IPsec, now the time has come to talk about the practical implementation of this your IPsec. Now for that, first I'd like to show you that I'm in a client computer. This is a Windows 10. So I'd like to make a, I'd like to ping and test the response from the server. So that server IP is 200.200. So let's see now it's able to reply. Now if I go back to server, that's my domain controller over here actually. So from here also let's try to ping that client, okay, and it should be able to reply because there is no IPsec policy right now. So the IP of my that client is actually 200.2 so far I remember. So it's working. Now I'm going to show you how to implement or how to set up your IPsec. Now I'm going to go to the local group policy over here from the client because I would like to show you in the easiest way. So let's go to the group policy. This is the local group policy of my client operating system. That's a Windows 10. Okay. Now, in order to set your IPsec policy, you'll have to use the computer configuration, Windows setting. Inside a Windows setting, we'll have to select or choose the option for your IPsec setting. So now let's go to the security setting. Inside the security setting, we'll be talking or we'll be going back to the IPsec policy. Now, by default, there is no policy. So that's why there is no security. Now, if I go to right click over here and create the IP security policy. Now, the first screen that is showing you is just to name your IPsec policy. Suppose, let's say I like to block the ping. Okay, so let's say ICMP block, for example. You can give anything over here. Okay, now this screen you'll have to be careful before you go to the next because I want you to understand. So it's saying that now over here, the default response rule respond to remote computer that requests security when no other rule applies. I hope you understood this. To communicate securely, the computer must respond to request. That means when you make a request, that computer must respond to that request so that your communication is done in a secure channel with the help of this internet protocol security. But you also need to understand that the default response rule is supported only on computers that are running Windows 2003 and Windows XP. That means default response, your support over here is only from this operating system. If you have older version than this, it is not going to be supported. And obviously activate the default response rule. This one also we are not going to click it because we are going to create our own policy. Now finish. That was the simple first part of your giving a name to your IPsec. Now after that, if you see over here, by default one response is there and we do not want to use that one. So that's why we are going to create our own. So let's go to add. Let's go to next. Now before you go to the next, you need to understand that these security set actions are going to be performed. That means IP tunneling attribute, authentication method and filter action. That's why it's bit secure. So let's go for next. Now when I come to this screen, this one, the tunnel endpoint actually indicates that point-to-point secure. That means point-to-point security. For example, one router to the next router. This is point-to-point. But if you do not want to use that one, okay, if you would like to go for the transport layer, you can go from here. Okay, so let's go to next. And you need to select the type of your network where you would like to implement this IP security. Of course, I'm not going to use only one network or the remote access. I would like to implement this one for my entire network connection. So that's why I go to next. Now after that, okay, this one is the older one. I'm going to remove it. You need to create the or set the IP filter list. So you need to add the IP filter list. Now you can give your IP filter list name. Let's say ICMP filter. Okay, you can write anything. Now you need to add it. Go to next. Now it's asking you to write the description. It is up to you. Now here one more thing I want you to notice, that by default mirror is checked. That means match packets with the exact opposite source and the destination address. That means whatever setting I'm doing over here, in order to have the secure communication with the help of this IPSec, exact setting has to be done to the destination computer as well. So that's why mirror option is set by default. Description is optional. If you'd like to have, you can give it. Okay, since we're in a lab environment, I don't think it's necessary for us to do this one. Let's go to next. So now it is asking you, what is the source IP address from where this IPSec policy originates? From where you would like to use this one? Obviously, this is not any IP address. In our scenario, we'd like to select my IP address. From my IP address, that is a 192.168.200.2 is the source IP. And to whom? Not to my IP. Now I can give to any IP address. Destination can be anything. Okay. Next, after that, which protocol would you like to implement this your IPSec? If you want to go for the specific one, ICMP, you can select that also. But I'd like to show you that even if I select any, that means it will be implemented for the entire protocol. Then go to the next. Now, if I select this edit properties and finish, what setting we did right now, it's going to show you that all. Address, protocol, description. Remember, this was the same thing. Okay, that means this part is done. Okay, now you'll have to select, okay, IP filter list that you created just now. So select ICMP filter, then you go to the next. Okay, now this one is the previous one, so I would like to remove this one. I would like to create my own. Okay, this was done for my previous class. That's why it will still exist over here. So it's saying that secure, it's selected filter action is currently being used by this rule. Okay, we don't want to use this one. Okay, we'd like to go to the another one. Okay, we'll create our own one. Now give your filter action. Now the next work that you need to do is the filter action. So let's write ICMP filter. This is your own filter. Okay, now go to next. What would you like to go for this filter action? Negotiate, permit, or block? Negotiate we are going to do. Why? To the next destination computer also is going to apply the IPSec policy, so that these two IPSec is going to negotiate to each other and their communication is done in more secure channel. So let's go to next. Now it is asking you, do not allow unsecure communication. Second option, okay, is allow unsecure communication if a secure connection cannot be established. That means first it will try to communicate in a secure channel. If it cannot communicate in a secure way, so it's going to still allow. But if I select this one, that means all the options, all the settings that we did right now will be all in vain. So that's why I'm going to select do not allow unsecure communication, because we want to have a secure communication between two computers. So let's go to next. Now what is the what IP traffic you'd like to have over here? This is for the security purpose. Now it's asking the filter action requires at least one security method. Which security method you like to implement over here, so that you can make sure that the IPSec is trying to communicate in a secure way? Number one, integrity and encryption. The meaning of this integrity means it will make sure that the data what was originated from the source, okay, by the time it reaches to the destination, the data is still same. That means no one try to touch that data. That means there is no changes in the data from source to the destination. And second one, integrity and encryption. That means your data will go in a encrypted form. And the second option that you have over here for the security is only integrity. And you do have option for the custom. Of course, we like to test this one, integrity and the encryption. So that's why I'm going to select the same one. Let's go to next. Now, if I select this edit properties. You might have noticed what we did previously is going to display the same thing. Okay, now your filter is this was the previous one that I used. Okay, so if I select this one and it's been used somewhere else, so that's why let's select our own one. Okay, so next there is last one more thing that you need to set up over here. See what it is asking in an authentication method. If you remember, if you are trying to communicate in an Active Directory integrated zone, that means if you are trying to log in using the domain controller in a client server architecture, your Active Directory default Kerberos version 5 is going to be used for the security purpose. That's a protocol that is used. And second option that you have over here, you can use the certificate also for the authority. Okay, now we don't want to use this. Let's go for this one. Use the string. That means remember that mirror option that we did, the same setting will be done in the next destination also with the same key, over key, whatever key we are going to create over here. So for example, let's see 123. So the same 123 key has to be set to the destination computer as well, whoever you want to have the secure communication channel. So let's go to next, finish. Now it is already selected. Okay, but I would like to show you again one more thing. See, I'm in a client computer. Okay, now if I go to the server, okay, let's go to the server. This is my server, and just now we set our IPSec policy. Okay, let me check my IP address. Okay, my IP address is 200.200. That means I set the IPSec policy just now to the IP address 200.2. Let's see that first. Okay, I'd like to make sure. I want you to be sure that the IP address of that computer was that. So let's see now. If I show you the IP address of the computer where I have set the IPSec just now, see here, this is the IPSec policy. Okay, and this is my IP address. IPSec is already done. If I ping from here, okay, so let's see now 192.168.200.2. what do you say? Will it be able to reply? Because we have already set the IPSec policy in that client computer and the IPSec is not set in my server. And the answer is it will still be able to communicate. See here. Then what is the use of having that IPSec policy? We forgot one thing. One setting is still not done. Making your IPSec policy does not guarantee that your policy will be deployed immediately. If I see over here right click, did you notice now it is not assigned so far? So after making the IPSec policy, you'll have to assign. So I'm going to assign it. Now again, if I go back to server and try to communicate with that client computer, the communication will not be done. See, stop now. Okay, now if I would like to have a secure communication with this computer as well, what I need to do now, I'll have to do the same setting over here also. Let's do that. Then only it will be able to communicate with the destination computer, because both are going to communicate in the same secure channel. That means IP security, okay, Internet Protocol security. So let's go to the local group policy of this computer as well, and we are going to do the same setting that we did last time in the another computer. Okay, so let's go for it. So I'm going to minimize this one. So same setting, Windows setting. Okay, then we go to the IP security from the security option. Okay, let's go to the security setup, security setting. Then you go to the IP security. Okay, right click, new, next. Let's give a name, ICMP, for example, ICMP IPSec. You can give any name you want. Okay, now this I've already explained. I don't want to waste your time. Finish. That was the naming one. Now we are going to add a new one. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that we did in a previous one. Okay, this is the older one. I would like to remove it. Yes. Okay, now we are going to create our own. Let's say ICMP filter new. Okay, so I'm going to write add, and the next description mirror. We have already discussed about this. Okay, who's the source? Source is my IP address. And who's the destination? Any IP address. And what protocol? Because we're going to try for all the protocols, so that's why I don't want to select anyone. Okay, now we are going to give a name over here, ICMP filter new. It is already done. Okay, if I do add, go to next, it's going to do the same thing, because this is already done. Okay, so that's why we don't have to think about it. Okay, so let's cancel this one. Okay, now go to OK. This is my ICMP filter new. Next one, this is my previous one, because the action has to be done over here. So we are going to add the action over here. Remember, this is the same setting that we are doing. Okay, so ICMP action, let's write it. Same setting has to be done. What we want to do, negotiate. Okay, do not allow unsecure. Next, of course, integrity and encryption we are going to check, and finish. Okay, now select this one. Next, and the last one, key. Do you remember we said the key 1 2 3? Next, now finish. Okay, this one is already now selected, and again same thing. What has to be done? You will have to enable that. Okay, by default that is not going to be selected as a enable one. Okay, so let me go and enable again over here. Okay, so let's say, let's go to the group policy again. I'd like to show you the same thing here. Let's go to Windows setting, then your security. Okay, then you go to the IPSec, and you see here, right click, assign. Now both the computers have assigned the internet protocol security. Now this computer or this server will be able to ping to that client computer as well. So let's try that now. 192.168.200.2. It should be able to communicate because in both the computers the same setting has been done. Congratulations, successfully your IPSec is now configured. So this way you can easily configure your IPSec, and so that your integrity and the encryption is done in your network, so that the secure communication is done and your data is secure and no intruder can try to steal your data. They try to bring any modification in your data. You can rely on this, and this is the best way to secure the data. For VPN and anything, IPSec can be implemented. So this was the first part of this IPSec, where I've shown you in the simplest form. So in my next video, most probably I'm going to show you to implement this IPSec for the VPN as well. So if you find it fruitful, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.